And the first subject, we're going to kind of take a little bit out of order here. Number 6, so we can get that report, so the young lady can go back home.
And thank you, Carol, for coming. And Carol just asked me before the meeting, she needs to pick up her son, who's coming in at the airport, so we want to be able to allow her to go. So
Nothing to do with the hockey.
thanks.
In my case, can pick his daughter up. Yeah.
Okay, so CPA quarterly report.
Thank you. I'm going to start on page 3. Page 2 just goes over the services that we provide, and they haven't changed. So page 3 is really a top view approach to the whole project. The project cost is $102,598,000 of which ineligible costs total $24,677,425. So the total reimbursable costs are $77,883,273 at a reimbursement rate of 69.12, leaves the maximum total facilities grant, I'm going to skip down a little bit, at $54,939,358. Includes potential additional contingency grant funds. So out of the total cost of the $102 million, the MSBA grant, maximum MSBA grant at $54 million, we're left with a town cost of $47,621,340. On page 4, to date, the submissions for the project total $66,382,018. We've received all reimbursement requests through 28 and expect submission number 29 as soon as, probably within 3 weeks of my mailing the MSBA forms to the MSBA. I haven't yet received them signed. So the total cost of the town through submission 29, including that expected reimbursement, is $24,553,861. The currently ineligible costs, they're detailed below, are $5,866,949. Construction contingency, change orders, and over basis costs will be reviewed at the final audit, where many of the costs may be determined to be eligible. In addition, the MSBA auditors periodically review ineligible costs previously submitted. 2 such audits were conducted. One on October 18th, where we received $40,048 back in change orders, and one on March 22nd. We received $69,321 in change orders. We spoke with the MSBA on Friday, and they're double checking on the $2,200 not in scope for the irrigation system and the $17,000 utilities. They're going to review that. On page 5, it's a further detail of the ineligible costs. So accounting for our firm through submission 29 is $20,863. The concession stand of $231,345. Catering $133. Change orders pending further review of $607,681. Conference and court reporting services of $475. Current GMP contingency costs are $558,877. Legal fees of $25,264. Again, that $2,200, which will be reviewed for irrigation system. Amount over basis for the total facility grant, $4,399,289. Penalties for sales tax. One is for $277, and one is for $178. And I believe Consigli has been.
Yeah, we'll reconcile that tonight.
Yeah. Permit and inspection fees are $83. Regionalization study was $487. Reimbursements to Jean Moore and Elizabeth Tolson, total $686. Shipping of $60. Travel for a total of $1238. This unsupported was resubmitted. It was just missing a backup invoice. And for utilities, again, MSBA is reviewing that 17,000 to Columbia Gas.
So maybe a little bit of detail on the Columbia Gas. MSBA first categorized that as ineligible. That is the temporary gas that we're using to heat the building during construction, which is a cost out of the GMP. But we didn't charge the GMP because the town has the permit, we put the permanent meter on the building. And so Columbia has sent the bills to the town. So the town has been paying those. Ultimately, there'll be a credit change order back from the contractor back to the town for that value. And so we explained that to MSBA on our conference call on Friday. And so they're looking into it, they said, and but we'll keep pressing them on that issue. And then the $2,200 for the irrigation system, that was the specialty consultant that Vince and Chelsea had to hire when we did the town water district municipal use for irrigation permitting. That was, they developed that smart irrigation system. So we explained that as well to the MSBA, and they're reconsidering that as well.
Okay, on page 6, the 47,621,340 from page 3 of the total projected costs of the town. We take away the amounts of funds that we have, the costs borne by the town to date of $26,511,352. That does not include the expected reimbursement. So with that expected reimbursement, of course, that would go down. The balance of the projected unreimbursable costs is currently at $21,109,988. And a little just depictions of the pie charts showing those amounts. Currently, we're at 56% of the costs borne by the town and 44% of projected unreimbursable costs. Expenditure status of the whole $102 million. Expenses through submission 29 are at 65%, and the remaining school project expenses are at 35%.
So maybe just two points to add on page 6 is that as we're now embarking on the bulk of our site work, finishing up phase 2 and then fully phase 3, for us to remember that site work had that cap of 8% of building costs. Above that 8% cap is ineligible costs. So we'll see as we go forward now, a lot of the site work costs will be coming ineligible as we submit them. And likewise, as we start to finish off the building, the invoices that are related to the building, being that there was a cap on the building cost of, I think it was $297 a square foot. Anything above that was ineligible. We're going to start to hit that. So the percentages, you'll see when we talk about the requisition, we're pretty much further along than 56% of the build, of the project cost. And so that percentage will now start to grow more rapidly toward the tail end of the project. Normal course, normal trajectory on MSBA projects.
Okay, and on page 7, with regards to the reimbursement status of the total maximum facilities grant of $54,939,358, we've received $39,876,65 at 73%, leaving 27% remaining of $15,068,693. The next page is a payment history matrix, right through we received reimbursements right through number 28, expecting the $1.9 million for the March 15th meeting, probably within 3 weeks.
So the key takeaway on that page is that it's still tracking about a month and a half to get from our meeting to having the town receive the check. which is a good turnaround. That's a really good turnaround.
The last page, page 9, just a detail of all the vendors paid to date and where I came up with that 66,382,14 of the total costs paid by the town, total amounts of submissions. And as far as the budget revision requests, 2 through 18 have been fully submitted, fully approved. 20, 21, 23, 25, 27, and 29, oh, actually, those have been approved as well. That was a last minute addition on Monday morning. Budget revision requests 22, 24, 26, 28, 29, 30, and 32 have been submitted, but are awaiting approval from the MSBA. And requests 19 and 30, we're having an issue with the ProPay system. I just can't get them entered, and the MSBA is working on it. And that's it.
So any questions? Thanks, sir.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, then back to item number 1, approval of minutes, our March 15th meeting minutes.
Second.
Any questions on it? Minutes from anybody? All in favor?
Aye. There were a few action items from that meeting. One, I was to schedule an interim building committee meeting in the event that we bid the technology under E-rate. As it turns out, we sent out an email to everyone that program wasn't of benefit to the town relative to E-rate. It would have been if it was set up originally before we had the project scope and budget meeting and didn't include that portion of the FF&E, and that's just too early, so that wasn't done at that point. And the E-rate consultant came back, and thanks Patty for following that up. So we didn't have to have the meeting. Second was Vince and Chelsea were going to send in the final FF&E procurement list. As you'll recall at our last meeting, we presented the FF&E procurement list, and there were a few items that came in a little bit after we bid, and the committee asked the FF&E working group to essentially work it out and stay within budget, and they've done that, and so that list is in here. We can spend a little bit of time, Vince, when we get to your portion. Next action item, Vince and Mateo were to finalize a cost and a design for the time capsule, and we'll hear about that tonight. Second of the time capsule was the time capsule working group. Patty, Barbara, and Fred were to start the conversation about what would be in the time capsule. And we have time. We definitely have time for that. But we should keep it on the agenda item, I think, as from here on out. Next action item, school committee was to decide the name of the school or schools, and given the election, et cetera, although we said it would be ideal last month to have it resolved for this month, working with Christian and Mateo, if we could get it resolved for our next building committee meeting, that would work out. And so if we can shoot for that, that'd be great. Next action item, Vince and Mateo and Chelsea were to come back to us with the imagery for the town seal. That's the inlaid seal that's on the floor in the community entry, which is the town seal, in a colored version and in the current black, gray, and lighter gray version. And we'll have the conversation about that a little bit later. Next action item, the building committee was to look at the dedication plaque. That is the plaque that will be in the lobby of the building, listing the town participants. I'll leave it at that. And so that's on our agenda item tonight. Vince, we provided another copy for us to kind of look at? Okay. And so we'll want to kind of get closer, we might not be able to make a decision tonight, but we need to get closer to making a decision so we can get it into fabrication and installed. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Next action item, Vince and Matteo, we're going to update our traffic plan. We have that here for tonight. Next action, I also kind of checked with Vince, Chelsea, Christian, and Matteo. Do we need additional meetings? This sort of came up as it related to the E-rate additional meeting. We kind of talked about that at our construction meetings the day after our last meeting, and decided that we don't. I think everything, what we talked about was everything is going well, that we've identified the issues that are in front of us and have planned accordingly. So at this moment, we don't need to have any other interim meetings between our monthly meetings. And then the last item was the dedication bricks. Vince, Matteo, and Fred were to look into that, and we have a conversation about that tonight on the agenda. I'm going to kind of go quickly because we do have a big agenda tonight. So under agenda number 3, approval of invoices and commitments, on page 11 of 45 within our standard agenda package with a photo on the front, we do have an amendment for Flansburgh Associates. That is for hazardous materials abatement consultancy for the exterior of the building. If you'll recall, several months ago, we retained through Flansburgh their consultant to provide full-time monitoring, which is required by law, of the interior abatement of the asbestos within the building during the abatement period, to monitor and then give us clean air. This is for the exterior portion where we have exterior felts on the roof have asbestos, window caulking has asbestos, and they'll provide on-site monitoring to make sure that we can get clean air and fall within the regulations. Their cost fee for that exterior hazardous materials abatement monitoring is $20,152.
I move that we accept the designer amendment number 21 for hazardous materials consulting services as presented.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We do, under commitments as well, have change order number 20. That's our standard change order package. Thing to note on change order number 20, which is in the amount of $67,128. After the incorporation of change order number 20, we will have a balance in our owner's contingency of $4,225,504. That's on the bottom of page 1 of 60. And then on the bottom of page 2 of 60, there are GMP contingency transfers within change order number 20. On the bottom right-hand corner of page 2 of 60, our GMP contingency will have a remaining balance of $1,825,564. And there are no allowance transfers within change order number 20. So with that, I'll turn it over to Vince on page 5 of 60 to walk us through the elements contained in change order number 20.
Correct. So change request number 185 is called relocate second floor corridor exit signs from the ceiling to the wall. On the second floor, we have double height ceilings or really high ceilings on the second floor corridors. And typically you'd put your exit signs at the ceiling level, but we noticed that it's really too high to actually see, so we've asked to have them moved from the ceiling down to the wall, and that's what this is for $495.
Is that a code thing, or is that a more of an aesthetic thing?
Well, the height of it is more code, I mean, it's in terms of.
I would assume it's code because
Yeah.
it's not a usable height, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm saying as far as, I mean, just in terms of providing the exit sign as code, it just doesn't make sense to have it up that high. At some point,
Okay.
probably going to be asked to have it moved down to be a little bit more visible, so. was moved for $495. Change request number 187, type DR light fixture clarification. The dark room had some light fixtures shown, they weren't the fixtures that were wanted, and so we asked to have them changed, and so that was resulted in a change of $3,178. We were credited for the ones that we showed, but this is in addition to that. Change request number 188, technology changes in building C admin area. Several changes just resulted in terms of coordination with the administration to get additional data outlets and phone outlets and so forth. So that was done for $6,998. Similar to that, change request number 190, technology changes in the central office. Again, just coordination with the administration to make sure that we have additional telecom and data outlets and so forth, flat screen TV and so forth. So that was done, change of $12,491. That's in the central office area. Change request number 207, electrical work for duct smokes required. There were duct smokes that we showed in the duct work, but in the band room, but they were really too high to access because the ceiling was really too high. So we had to shift them to a more accessible location, and in the course of doing that, required additional duct smokes to be added. So that was a change for $3,776. The next change, change request number 208, soffits at the B lobby. Again, in this case, there's a lot of duct work going on in the B lobby, and we had to make some adjustments to the ceiling heights. And in the course of adjusting the ceiling heights, we needed to add some trim to work that, and as well as the robotics room, we did some similar work to help with the adjustments to the varying ceiling heights, and that was a change for $7,366. Change request number 214, thresholds at the gym. The gym doors typically would be, the gym floor has a small gap around the edge of it because it's wood and it needs to expand a little bit. The doors itself, we didn't have any thresholds to cover that gap, so this change is to add aluminum thresholds at the doors around the gym to cover that gap. That's $2,356. Change request number 216, some additional door hardware changes. Again, some of these we call for magnetic hold opens, but the wall is kind of too far away, and so in some cases we had to make a change from a wall magnetic hold open to a floor mounted magnetic hold open. And other places where we had wall bumpers, we added sort of a door stop in the hinges on the door frame itself. So those hardware changes resulted in $5,569 worth of change.
Is that a good idea to put stuff on the floor in the gymnasium, magnetic holders?
This is not in the gym. This is in different areas around the building.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Okay.
yeah. So it's not in the gym. Solid glass panels. Change request number 218. Solid glass panels adjacent to the sliding glass wall. At the media center, we have a pair of glass doors that slide open into the technology, sort of the computer lab area. And instead of it sliding into a pocket, we changed those pockets into another glass panel, so that be a little bit more open, so you have a wider opening, or more visibility between the two spaces. So it was change the glass panel from solid wall to glass. That was a change of $5,498. Change request number 220, provide a partition at the MDF. That's your head-in room. That's the MDF room is where all your technology is located. And in terms of trying to secure the back part of it to make it more secure for the school personnel versus others that might want to use the space, we proposed to add in a cage, a wire cage, which included some additional hardware, card readers and such that required that. So this change resulted in a $13,756 to give a little bit more, security to that head-in room. Change request number 221, furring out walls in building B bathrooms. Some of the walls that had sinks on them, on block walls, didn't have chase, more or less, to include some space for the pipes to run in, so we had to include a chase wall or hi-hats and drywall to close off the face of that stud wall had deferred it out. That was $1,336. Change request number 220, blocking in the PK and the pre-kindergarten and kindergarten toilet rooms. This as a result of changing to add the changing tables that we were doing for the National Association of Education for Youth, whatever it is, YNEA. Basically, we added the changing table, so this was a cost to add blocking to accept those changing tables, $3,368. Change request number 226, cladding for the concession roof fan. We own a roof fan on the concessions building, but it sits on a curb, and that curb wasn't really shown anywhere, but it needed to have a finish on it, so this is to add some metal panels around that fan curb to give it a more complete finish. It's the metal, the same as the roof material, so it's aluminum, it's a metallic finish. So it's a cost of $614. The next one is change request number 227. This is basically, we added a wand door. The wand door is a folding door. We had looked at that a couple of meetings back about how that door sort of petitions, folds back and forth and out in order to allow some access control on the second floor coming into Building C. But this needed to add in a couple of pieces of hardware to allow for a little bit more control in terms of a panic hardware paddle and a key on the other side for the staff to use. And that was a change of $783. Change request number 236. This is the credit that Joel had mentioned before of $456. That's credited back for items that had included taxes and shipping previously. The next ones are contingency transfers. The next first one is CT number 41. This is to procure the vinyl signage in different areas of the building. We have vinyl graphics that we had called out on the drawings, but without anything specific. And as a result, the contractor didn't buy it until we gave him a little bit more information. So the contractor came out and purchased it, and in that process of buying it, we also determined that there's a couple of painted logos in the gym that we wanted to do as vinyl graphics. So that combination of buying that out, changing from painted to vinyl graphics is a change of $16,362, which comes out of the contingency transfer. So there's a zero total there. The next contingency transfer is general requirements, overage, and trade support projections. Contractor has a number of general requirement allowances for safety, surveying, roof edge protection, and the staging for the stair towers that he carried a certain amount of money. That money has been applied to this total, and then his total used so far is $790,598 towards a budget of $840,000. We're getting close, but we're not near the end yet. So in projecting forward, he's looking that we're going to need to add another $180,000 to that general requirements, and therefore this total transfer is $215,786 for that contingency transfer. Contingency transfer number 53, unprocured scope condenser curbs for the kitchen equipment. Again, I know, Fred, you always, anytime these mechanical things come up, you always question, but the rooftop units have all the curbs on it and purchased by the mechanical contractor, but the kitchen rooftop fans were called out under the kitchen equipment, and they were not carried in the mechanical contractor scope, and so this is added to those two roof curbs for the kitchen exhaust fans, and so that's a transfer of $3,484. Continuing on, contingency transfer number 62 for parging of the CMU walls for tiles. The tiling contractor didn't want to accept the CMU walls in the current condition that they were because they were too irregular, and they wanted to have a parge coat on there for the tiles to actually, I think it's a good idea to give a nice finish to the tiles so that they lay better. That was a cost of $8,287. Contingency transfer number 64, shot clock mounts. Again, we had the shot clocks shown on the drawings and we called them out, but the actual mounting of the shot clocks to the backboards, those mounts weren't purchased, and so we needed to mount them, but this is coming out of the contingency transfer, $770 to mount the shot clocks to the backboards. Contingency transfer number 68, cost to reinstall, cost to install a relocated roof hatch. At one point, we had shown a roof hatch in one location, but we determined, bless you, that the better location would be in the custodial closet, and the time when we made that decision to relocate it, the roofing had already been installed, so we had to cut out and reinstall some roofing. So that cost was $2,820. Contingency transfer number 69, AV at the concession stand. At the concession stand, windows, openings. Again, we basically, it's a pretty simple CMU construction, but again, where the contractor wanted to seal up his window against something more solid or more smoother. So we added an AVB barrier there to give them a smooth surface to caulk up against rather than an irregular CMU block. That was a cost of $1,360. Contingency transfer number 73 was to add structural steel for the TV studio isolation. In the drawings, we call for the TV studio to be isolated from the gym up above. In the drawing, we had anticipated doing that with studs only. The contractor's engineer reviewed it and said that it didn't work just with studs alone. It needed to have some steel support. And so this was to add some steel tubes and framing to allow for a combination of steel and studs to make that isolation more work, and it was a cost of $8,692. Contingency request transfer number 74, additional window testing. We had allotted for 3 window tests or different types of windows. We had some issues earlier on, and so we wanted to have a little bit more confidence in the window installation at all, and so we did additional window testing, and that came to a total of $11,650. And the last contingency transfer is number 75, concession stand layout changes for an alternate stall access. We had laid out the concessions building plans and given some dimensions, but there was some dimensioning that was still required. Based on the layout that we had given them, some further review needed to be done, and we needed to modify some of the dimensions. It resulted in requiring some of the installed equipment to be removed and relocated, and that resulted in a cost of $13,016. And that's it.
Any questions?
Do we do the change orders and then the transfers all as one?
No, we would vote the change, to approve the change order, and then we would vote the 2 individual budget revisions individually.
I move that we accept the change order number 20, based on the summary we just heard as printed.
Second. Anybody have questions on it? Everybody understand it? All in favor of it?
Aye.
So then moving then to page 51 of 60 is budget revision request number 33 in the amount of $67,128, and that reallocates from the owner's contingency budget $67,128 to the change order.
I move that we approve the budget revision request number 33 in the amount of $67,128 as printed.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor of that motion? Unanimous.
And then 2 pages later,
34.
BRR 34.
So I move that we approve the budget revision request number 34 in the amount of...
There was no set amount, they're all individual because they were CTs.
But it doesn't total?
No.
No, okay, as printed.
Second.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
So that takes care of our commitments. Under item number 3, invoices and commitments, we do have the voucher for tonight, the April 19th voucher separate package, on page 1 of 71. Voucher for April 19th, 2017 is in the amount of $2,888,370.57, comprised of invoice for Eric Kinshriff CPA. This is actually for, I think, 3 months. We hadn't submitted his invoice for $6,222.50. Columbia Gas for February gas usage for $8,526.71. Columbia Gas for March services for $6,054.14. Verizon for the data use for the month of March for $985.81. Verizon for hooking up our telephone lines and providing service for all of our telephone ports for $3,909.60. Excuse me. Flansburgh Associates for $85,750 for construction administration services. Sims Van and McKee for $72,107.96. For OPM construction services, Sims Van and McKee for $1,100 for owners testing lab services, and Consigli Construction for $2,703,713.85.
Move that we approve the voucher for April 19th, in the amount of $2,888,370.57 is printed.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Pass around the warrant. Next agenda item is the final FF&E procurement. This is under our standard agenda package, which is shown on page 5 of 45. The overall award was within our budget. There was some shifting to pick up some of the equipment requests that came in after bids came in, and some of the FF&E items, which were unit rates, were reduced to balance that out. Vince, you want to add any more to that?
No, I think the most of the items that were added were the ones that we required for the certification for that early use training. So most of that, and then there was some, like Joe said, minor modifications to some gym equipment. So, but it still at the budget. So.
Band, wasn't there one in there for band? Or
There's art, some art,
Music,
some
Jerry.
modified, and some, most of it was gym equipment.
Jerry's music.
So the next agenda item is item number 5, vote to approve technology vendors. This starts on page 7 of 45. And this will be a vote for us tonight. And I'd like to introduce Scott Goodrich from Advance. Scott and Doug are the owners of Advance. And so what this does, it picks up the balance of our educational technology purchases. If you'll recall, we awarded all of the network and the internet and the wireless hardware back in February. And that's actually starting to be installed this week. And so this picks up the rest of the FF&E technology. And Scott, do you want to walk us through?
Sure. If you go to, real quick, to page 8. Page 8 is a summary of where we are in terms of the technology budget. The first 5 rows of the budget here are what Joel was just referring to as the equipment that was already procured and is currently being installed. Totals around $224,000. In February, we went out to bid with an RFR. We had approximately 7 or 8 state contractors participate in that. We got 6 responses back. We reviewed those responses, and the recommended awards are going to the lowest qualified vendors in each category, which would be Okers for the informational technology RFR for $785,489.57. And the AV is the lowest qualified is Pro AV, and their total was $380,842.50. And Apple Computer, they don't have to bid. They just provide us a proposal. $310,229.46. So those are the 3 that we're currently looking at tonight. There are also below in that 3rd category of future awards, there are some items, specifically the new Apple iPad has not a case yet. Apple has not released the case for the Apple iPad, so we're waiting for that, and that's just a budgetary amount for future purchase of the cases. And then we're carrying the same contingency that we've been carrying. You can see the total budget with the purchases to date is $1,774,189.03. Below that, you see the project tech budget, which is $1,971,000. There's essentially $248,000 still in the budget. That's how much we're under budget currently, about $250,000. So, in December, there were some decisions made between Doug and the technology staff to actually hold to the side a number of technology items in order to make sure that we met the budget with the priority items. And that is still an ongoing discussion, but not for tonight, is whether some of those items that were removed in December should come back into the budget.
How late would it be, what would be the drop dead date to decide that?
I would say it would probably be something that should be identified fairly soon. Mobilization for these procurements is going to occur in the month of May and the first part of June. And I would say sometime within the first, as soon as possible, that a decision should be made as to whether or not we want to add to those purchases or not, and what those purchases would actually be.
So our next meeting, I can't remember the exact date, say the middle of May.
Yes.
May 17th.
May 17th? So May 17th, is that something that the technologies working group would get together and decide and make a recommendation?
Sure.
Yes.
And then, so how long would you want to hold your contingency for? What's that for, unforeseen sort of things, or?
So the contingency is, like most of the other parts of the project, there's a certain amount of uncertainty associated with some of the purchases. I think we're certainly at a point where we're zeroing in on the items that need to be purchased, and that contingency certainly can be absorbed into purchases that are required, equipment that may be required. At some point, that transition, probably at the next meeting when you review additional items that might be added, whether or not you have to go to make up the entire gap or not is really a function of.
That's good.
Function of need.
All right, so for our May 17th, we'll hear a little bit more on technology. But for tonight, this is the recommendation from the Technology Working Group to ask the town to issue purchase orders for these items. And then
It's for Okers and Pro-Am.
Pro AV.
And Apple.
Yeah.
All right, I move that we award Akers bid at $785,489.57. The Pro AV bid at $380,842.50, and Apple at $310,229.46.
Second.
Any questions from anybody? All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
So, Scott, then if I can ask you or Doug to fill out the PO request forms and send that to us as soon as you can, and Tim will send them over to Beth. She's been great turning them around, and then we'll get that in motion. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
That brings us to agenda item number 7, committee membership update. There's been, just with the recent elections, there was some changes on the various boards that are represented on the committee. I would want us to sort of recall that on November 18th, 2015, actually, we took a vote here that said, there was some forethought that if there were members on the committee that were representatives of boards that were no longer on those boards, they could serve on this committee as a member at large, non-voting. And so let's just keep that as a framework when we enter our sort of the conversation of what we need to talk about with our current committee membership. Tim?
You want me to
Sure.
jump in? So, just to remind everybody of the process, and correct me where I go wrong, membership to the Permanent School Building Committee is through the Board of Selectmen, that vote on the membership. Traditionally, and I suspect it'll continue this go around, the school committee rep will be nominated, if you will, by the school committee to the Board of Selectmen for a vote. The Board of Selectmen has been a change. There's a new chairman of the Board of Selectmen. And what I expect will happen, it'll be on our agenda for a week from tonight, that the membership here will remain as is, with Selectman Moore as a representative from the Board of Selectmen as a member of the Permanent School Building Committee. That will be voted on next Wednesday night. As will changes that come from the school committee as well.
So the school committee voted at our last meeting for me to be the school committee representative. So I guess the next step would be for Barbara could take my seat as the person with education. That's my thought.
In the past, has this committee nominated people to the Board of Selectmen?
No.
So I guess what I would recommend, we need to open that up to
the board,
to the
BOS.
public to fill that position, I suppose. And then the Board of Selectmen would select.
We did agree to have Julie Hamilton on this as recommended by the school committee, and it was brought to this meeting, and we agreed. So I guess from what.
Bypass the selectmen.
We didn't bypass the selectmen. I'm saying we also backed up the school committee by saying, yes, go to selectmen and say, we all like the idea that Julie Hamilton will be on it. So to your point, do we do that again?
Sorry.
I guess with Barbara, if that's what we so choose. And Beth would still have to go to selectmen next Wednesday, correct? From the appointment from the school
Correct.
committee.
And then,
Okay.
For that educational person, although not binding, I don't think it would be wrong for this committee to make a recommendation.
Right, and I guess that's my point with what we did. It wasn't binding with Julie Hamilton, but we,
It had gravitas with.
exactly, yes, yeah,
That's fine.
yeah,
That's fine.
so.
Make a
Okay.
motion to appoint Barbara Davis,
Recommend.
Recommend.
recommend appointing Barbara Davis for education from the permanent school board committee.
Second.
Well, Fred, that would be for the selectmen to appoint her
To appoint.
to the committee.
Yeah,
Is that-
Recommend
is that
to
correct?
the selectmen, recommend to the
Yes,
selectmen.
wanna-
recommendation.
Just run that one more time.
I
Sorry.
recommend to have the board of selectmen appoint Barbara Davis from the permanent school board
As a voting member.
as a voting member.
Okay.
Second.
Everybody understand how it has to work? We all do, I guess. All in favor of Fred's motion? Fine.
So will the school committee be sending a communication to the Board of Selectmen?
Yes, yeah.
And this committee will do the same for their recommendation of Barbara
Yeah.
to the Board of Selectmen.
That would be for both of them.
Makes sense.
It would be, well,
Two separate communications.
Yeah.
yeah, one's really from the school committee to the
Right.
Board of
We
Selectmen.
can still, I suppose, be part of that if we want.
Okay, so I will draft a letter for Dan to sign on behalf of the Permanent School Building Committee to the Board of Selectmen.
Yep. The,
Outlining the
discussion
vote.
was had and
Yeah.
a vote was taken
Okay.
to support
Yep.
Barbara as the,
And your meeting is
Voting
next
member.
Wednesday? Is there a date prior to the letter we need to be in
It would
hand?
be good, it would be good to get it by Monday.
Okay, well, will do. Okay, perfect. Is that it? Any other questions on committee update? The next agenda item is building plaque update. That is the dedication plaque. Vince, was that in our agenda?
By 17, it's the second page in.
That's the one that's the time capsule in front of it?
Yeah, the one with the time capsule, so it's the second page in. So if anybody's looking for the time capsule, it looks like that, 11 by 17.
So
Just like the one there.
tonight, I vote for the exact dedication plaque, but we need to start talking about it and to kind of whittle it down to what we would like to see there. There is a process of once we get the final, and certainly check the names, the spelling of your names, please. Just triple check that. But conceptually, we should have a conversation about, the listing, who should be listed, what's the categories of listing. Any conversation, anybody?
I'm just curious, are there any examples that we could get from other places as to what they've put on the plaque?
We have some from our buildings already. We could,
I actually have photos of those,
your photos right there?
yeah.
Oh, good.
I think, somewhere like that.
And Vince, you've done this several times before?
Schools that, I mean, they all look similar to this.
Okay. As long as we're on the same path.
But, yeah, it's very similar to this, but we can show you other examples if you like, yeah.
And so, Vince, if you can send me some other images, we'll dig some up as well, and then send them to the committee. Because some have, I know that every community is unique, let's just start from that perspective, and they should be representing your community. That some just listed the building committees, some have listed principals, some have listed the Board of Selectmen, others not, same as a school committee. And, then there's the consideration of past members and current members. So it seems like it's a simple thing, but it's not. It's always takes a little bit of time. That's why Vince and Chelsea introduced it, early, to allow us to have this kind of conversation. So why don't we send some samples out? In the meantime, if anybody sees any name that is incorrect, please let Chelsea and Vince know. Does anybody have any feedback so far on any
the layout or what should be included or not included?
My only question is, because this is a project that, you know, has been ongoing since the day we get the vote, committee membership has changed. And, I would like to see anyone who was on those boards during that time period included, because they in some way contributed to it. That's,
How is that normally set out?
yeah.
Vince, in like in what you see in other facilities, how do they memorialize former members? Do they have them just kind of at the bottom of all the seated members, school committee, school building committee, board of selectmen, school committee, superintendent, and then is there another section for
You could have it as a separate. Yes.
former members or something of that nature?
It could be, I guess there's many ways to do it, but that's one way we've done it before, yes, with a separate group. Or we sometimes even just include them all in the same list, and we've done it that way too.
Associate members.
We can.
School
there's probably
building
another
committee is,
10 or 12.
it probably is,
Include them all in
yeah.
the same list.
You go back to,
Well, how far back would you go? To the vote or even prior to that?
I don't know, where are you making the
I mean,
line?
I thought we'd go to the vote, but,
The vote
Okay.
meaning the town vote to
Yeah.
approve the
Town meeting
project?
vote.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Not when we were slaving away and.
That way there's not.
Not back to
Home office.
2006.
Yeah, I was
gonna say, if you go
to. No.
When
If you
Joel
go
had
back-
black hair, Joel had jet black hair.
Yeah.
Matt walked without crutches.
I think that's appropriate. Easy enough to do, Joel, I guess?
Yeah, different ways of doing it. Sometimes you put the person's name and then you put a slash, a backslash, and then who replaced them, or, I mean, there's many different ways of doing it. But the first is just saying, okay, does it feel right to have from the town meeting vote forward, whoever was on any of the committees at any of those times? And I would say yes, that has happened several committees that I know of. Very rarely do committees say it's only the moment, when we finish the job.
Yeah.
Because there's always changes.
Yeah.
Roman School Building Committee goes way back to the 80s.
Well, yeah, so if the
Well,
town
the
meeting
two-
vote sounds like rational starting
But the
point.
2006, what Beth was talking about.
Oh,
is
that
when-
vote? I thought you
No,
meant
no,
2000.
no,
No,
I don't mean that one.
Well, 2006 is when,
When our
The
first
talk.
submission went in,
correct.
yeah.
So I would like to know the difference in amount of people's names.
But, yeah,
From the
you could look
vote
at that.
to the 2006.
I think the real work and effort on the part of the boards began when the vote,
Yeah.
at the time of the vote, and from there on out.
Well, you were on earlier, and I think you disagree with that.
There were a few years there wasn't much happening,
A few years that it was pretty tough, though, too,
yeah.
so.
If you could gather a list of those names or potential number of names that you were gonna be adding, it would be nice to know too, just so we could start putting it on there, because it does affect the balance of everything on the.
Let's be real, Jim, let's be very, very clear. So a listing should be developed for each of the 4 categories from, when was that first vote?
2006,
Spring or special?
when did that start, spring,
In
right?
2006, yes, strong.
So annual town meeting, 2006. Who will put
Maybe
together
it's-
the list? I mean,
It's tough.
you're gonna need to, someone's gonna need to volunteer
Yeah.
to do that.
How do we, I'm not sure how we get to
Well,
that.
we
Town
get it
clerk would
from
have that
town.
info.
Yeah.
Town clerk's
The town clerk would have?
Yeah, she would
The
have that,
building
because it'd be in
committee
the
as well
annual
as?
reports.
Okay. Okay, I can reach out to the town clerk to see.
I'm not saying we do that.
No, but
I would be
you're.
just curious, if it's 4 other people, then do we do it?
No, but let's.
If it's 2 dozen.
Let's just
then,
see what it is.
you know.
So there's
Yeah.
annual town meeting, 2006 forward. And then there's special town meeting 2015
No,
or 14?
14.
2014. Special town meeting 2014 forward.
And that was
And then we'll,
November.
just
Yeah.
figure out the quantity of the list, and then you guys can, we'll bring it to
Yeah.
the, we'll hopefully get it and send it to you. And then, next meeting, we should decide, though, let's do some thinking about, between now and then, what are the groups on the list, on this, the overall plaque? And then of those, is it the 2006 or the 2014 version? Okay? All right.
Oh, I don't see your name on it.
No, it shouldn't be. It just should be the names of the companies.
Company guy.
Okay, so that's, are we good? Any other conversation on the dedication plaque? Time capsule update. First, let's talk about the working group. Have you guys done anything? Not to say it that way, but, you know.
How much?
No.
So, all right, so you're working on it.
We'll be dead honest, nope.
All right, let's go. So you're working on it. And
Yep.
So let's talk about the design and the cost. And so that's a combination of two different handouts?
I can tell you, yeah, the first handout, just the first page of that thing, and this is basically, you've seen this before, I kind of brought it before, but basically that was what we're looking at and what we sent to Consigli for pricing.
So 12 inch round.
Tube, right.
3 feet long, right? Is that the
Yes,
only price?
yes, right.
So that would give you, you know, a significant volume of stuff to represent 2017 in there. So for the working group, when you're thinking about, you know, what's to go in there, that's what you're working with, if we proceed with this.
How many ceiling tiles do you think we have?
You could pulverize them, a bunch of them. So that's the design, and it would go in the wall cavity at the stair at the middle school, high school, stair up. And what we're gonna do is we'll put a access panel at that wall cavity so that you can remove it and then put the tube in there when you figure out and when, you know, everything's all set and done. It's probably a ceremony that goes along with all that. So that's the setup on the design side, and the cost is?
Yeah. So if you turn to the paperclip package, the last staple package, and then the last page on that, PR 118 is where we propose to both move the old time capsule as well as provide the new one.
So, you wanna hold that up? It looks like something?
So it looks like this.
The 11x17 package.
Yep.
Yeah, that has all the site plans on it?
Yeah, so it's that one, it's the very last part of that paperclip section. So the total cost is $7,025. This incorporates both digging up the old time capsule at South Elementary.
Mateo's doing by himself.
I mean, Mike and I have done some surveying. I have a metal detector coming tomorrow. You'll see me at South. I'm not kidding.
What are you gonna dig it up with, like a big excavator?
I hope not.
Dig the whole front on it?
Right, so I mean, we've made some assumptions here, right? We don't know how large that time capsule is. We're hoping it's
I
along the
don't
same
think it was a
lines.
very large, I was part of that
Okay.
years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
But it was not that big of a.
Okay,
I
great.
remember, it wasn't that big.
It was a lot
I
smaller.
Yeah,
I
right.
wasn't that big either.
So we're hoping it's around the same size or smaller. So within the assumptions that I've made, you know, we are gonna provide two 18 by 18 access panels. The location of that old one will depend on the size. Right now, we have it in the A, at the end of the A corridor. But so the total cost to dig it up and provide the new one, place both of those, fabricate a cast plaque very similar, well, exactly similar to the one that we currently have, and then, you know, cut and patch walls as needed. Again, $7,025 for that scope. I mean, you see me with a machine out there and stuff, then,
Did you say you hope?
well, if this thing is 10 feet
Because
deep.
it's.
If he needs the excavator, the price is different.
I mean,
I'm bringing a shovel.
Right.
So, you know,
when you bury a Volkswagen.
So, you know, we had to figure something.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it is an unknown.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a fair thing to say, it's two guys, 4
Yeah.
hours, right?
That's what I have.
That's what the labor is. And, you know, that's
Yeah.
a fair assumption.
Yeah.
So the first step is, does it feel right for us to add a time capsule to the project? That's the first question we have to answer for ourselves. And if it does, then does the 36-inch aluminum, sealable time capsule feel right? And if that does, then the amount is the $7,000. And so that's, set the framework from that perspective.
Any comments? Tim?
Why is it so expensive?
Yeah.
Probably not many people that make them.
I mean, I can break, I have a breakdown.
What's the,
Right.
yeah.
So the portion to dig up and relocate, provide a new time capsule, and the plaque is roughly $1,250. The actual plaque itself is $2,800, and then I'm carrying $2,000 and $500 to cut and patch walls and repaint the walls, respectively. So that's the breakdown of that cost.
The black, is it a bronze or?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's bronze embossed, 18 inches by 12, half-inch deep.
So it's a forged item?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. Approximately 8 weeks lead time. Not that that matters. Yeah. And providing the access panels is included in that cost as well. TJ.
So is it a formal vote or just a general agreement?
Well, if we were to take a vote, it might want to say that the committee would like to add the plaque, the dedication time capsules in the amount of $7,025 to be included in a future change order.
So moved.
Second?
Everybody okay with that? All in favor?
Aye. We should probably stay then on this package of information. We'll skip over to the memorial items, which is, just flip the page, so it's the very first one. And that's PR 117. And so we've had this now for several meetings so far. This is probably our fourth meeting talking about the memorial items. This is gathering up all the memorial items that are identified at either South or JFK or the junior senior high school, and then moving those and reinstalling those items. I think last meeting we covered the design of all of those items and where they would go, and we asked Vince and Chelsea and Mateo and Christian to get back together with that design and let's put some cost to it to understand what's that order of magnitude. And so Mateo, you want to walk us through?
So the items that we'll be relocating, as shown on the front of PR 117, are items number 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 21, and 27. Big picture, it's basically everything except for paintings and trophies, things that I feel like the owner would probably, and I think Mike's more comfortable with handling himself. And so the majority of that work will be done by Consigli and by Riggs. Dorenzo will provide us with labor and equipment to move the boulder and the cornerstone. And then TJ and King will provide some patching for, there's going to be an area where we have to do some blocking. Altogether, that cost will be $7,581. And that's for relocating and installing all those items.
The only question I have is just on the American flag, so we have two of them.
Yes.
1914, they're in the central office. So the intention is to keep them in the central office, or, because I mean, it seems like it's, a 100-year-old flag is pretty significant. You know, we don't need necessarily two in the central office, one could be placed somewhere else. I don't know. It would be displayed by, you know, and seen and admired by people who aren't necessarily in the, it seems redundant to me. I mean, that's the only.
That's where
I don't know how-
just because that's where they were, I think, is
Yeah,
what.
but how do we come up with two of the same year flag, do you know? Dan?
Come on, I'm not.
1914, how did I get there? I'm not suggesting I know where to put it, but, you know, maybe, you know, outside the gymnasium or something like that might be.
We have a lot of other flags around the building, so we could maybe cluster one of those with those someplace else.
Yeah.
Vince, can you guys take that on? So is that from the committee? Let's move one? Okay, and then so Vince and Chelsea, if you guys can get together and let's take a look at
I
it.
mean, everything else is very unique. I mean, the Sean Joyce, the different plaques and stuff. You know, I can't recall exactly what they say, but it looks like they have a space all their own. And the only other redundancies that I didn't see was the, you know, for the American flag, so that's why I bring it up.
Okay. So this would be the same thing, if, you know, if we feel that we would like to relocate all of these items from the three former schools into the new facility, that's the first question. And then the second question, if we do we feel that we can make a vote to accept the moving of these items in the amount of $7,581 and incorporate into a future change order?
So moved.
Second.
One other thing, another item that came up at our Memorial Day meeting that I told them I would bring it up here. We have a plaque of Paul Surratt. Paul Surratt is the only resident of Holbrook that was killed in Vietnam. And it was given, I believe it came from the American Legion Post. It's a, for those that haven't seen it, it's a heavy, I don't know, 60-pound maybe plaque. And Paul graduated from Holbrook High School, and it seems like it would be appropriate for that to be in the school. Not sure where, but I think it would be an honor to him and his family, and to the town to actually have it in there.
Where is it located now?
It's in Town Hall. It's not being displayed.
It's the Veterans Office.
Oh, okay, so it's not like on a wall?
It is not, no.
Is that something you guys can kind of go take a look at and see what we would need to do? It would want to, it would want to be mounted.
It would, yeah, it would be.
Okay, so there's a little blocking and something to work out. Okay.
Can we keep it under $8,000?
So far, so good.
Because I know there's gonna be backing, structural supports, and everything else that goes along.
Did you say 600 pounds?
Put a zero on there, right?
Can't wait to see this change order.
Good idea, though.
Okay, all right, excellent. So we'll get something issued, and then once we get that issued, we'll send a sketch out, so we'll have the location. So we were in the process of voting. Matt made a motion, and that was also to include the, is it Surratt, S-U-R-R-E? R-R-E-T-T. Okay, good. And it also to include the plaque for Paul Surratt. Fred seconded it.
All in favor of that?
Aye.
Okay, so that'll be in a future change order. Next agenda item is the school naming update. We had, Beth and I had some communication. We were trying to shoot for this meeting, but, you know, given the circumstances, we had said for the May 17th meeting, and we're on track for the May 17th.
Just, you know, an update on that. At the last school committee meeting, we have two people from the school committee who are heading up that process, and it'll be a quick turnaround, it will be done, so the process will go that, they're going to put out an electronic survey as well as paper surveys for people who would like to make suggestions, so that we can get input from the community, from students, from all community members. And then all of those suggestions will be put together, counted. That information will come back to the school committee, and we will be, looking at those and coming up with a consensus at our next meeting. So that's where we are, and it's the same thing with the Bulldog. Will be happening with the Bulldog logo.
Okay.
Two big decisions at our next meeting.
Next agenda item is the town seal update.
Oh, here's the seal. So I brought a smaller version of what we were proposing. Everybody wants to take a look at that.
And so do we have a building floor plan in our PowerPoint?
The one with the,
This would go in the middle of the
looking at putting
big
it,
building, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yep.
huh?
The entrance at the entrance.
Yeah, right at the community entrance.
So we're talking about right in here,
Right, excellent.
right? And the reason we had it here, we shifted it more to this double height space there. So this is kind of a schematic version of it. It's also, these are available in the packet that you're looking at, so if you want to look at it, it's in there. But this one is basically half scale to what that would be on the floor. So we have it, this is what we would currently own as the base contract, sort of monochromatic, or grays and light colors to go with it. So last time,
The surrounding floor is
it's also gray, so that's,
So it
this
would
is sort of
fit in.
representing, it's kind of representing the kind of the gray floor tiles that are there now. Okay? And so then the question was, what does it look like? So we did a colored version of it, which is found at the town hall. So this more or less is what the colored version of it would look like. Again, I used the same sort of gray tile patterns and just replaced it with color. So there's the black and white, and then the colored version of it. This would be done in porcelain tile as well, so it would be just colored porcelain tiles. The representation here is just kind of, shows squares. The actual could be, more irregular shapes. This is just the easier way for me to represent it as a mosaic.
What are the dimensions, you think, of the tile?
Again, it's hard to
The
say.
individual tile. No, is it 2-inch blocks? Is it half-inch block?
These, probably quarter-inch, half-inch, something like, probably half-inch, not quarter-inch, probably half-inch to a 3/4 of an inch. I think, like I said, they're probably more or less gonna be irregular versus what this is kind of more, traditional kind of square. I wouldn't imagine that they're gonna be all squares like this.
So we currently own in the contract
The gray
the
version.
gray, black, and white one. And there, if we went to the color, there was an upcharge.
Yeah, I
to
mean,
go.
you would need to know the specific colors and tile, but he said under $5,000. Lead time will depend on the tile, but I mean, it could be 8 to 12 weeks. If it's something that they don't have in stock, right, in the order.
Are we looking for opinion?
Yes, because at our last meeting, I think it was just for information. We were saying, this is what we're doing. And the question came up, well, could we do something different? And so that was the charge to the team, is to figure out what the look would be, and was there an upcharge?
I personally like the gray. I think the gray looks very smart, very classic. And that's why I asked my first question is, does it blend into the surrounding?
Yep.
And it does, it appears very well.
I agree, I like the gray.
Gray it is?
I'm just trying to, I don't know what the wall colors are or anything, the way it blends in, so, you know, this really pops, but I don't know if we want it to pop, and that's why I was thinking about wall colors and things like that. I agree with you, man, I like the blend and how it carries in, but I'm thinking the wall colors, what's around it, surrounding it, to see, you know, the contrast of it, but I like the blend of the gray, but I mean, that does pop,
You got
but
some
do we
blue
really
on the
want it to
walls,
pop like that?
Go to the floor plan.
You know? You know what I mean?
Because when you walk in the
I don't know if I
door,
want it to pop, I don't like it.
Tom, when you walk in the door, so you're walking through a glass storefront.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
your back is all glass.
Yep.
You're looking at a complete wall of glass
Yep,
on the other side, once you walk into that vestibule.
okay.
And then to your sides are openings. One is an opening to the
Just
cafeteria,
the
and the other one's
hallways,
an opening to the
yeah,
hallway.
carrying it through,
Yeah.
yeah.
The wall,
It's
the wall
mostly gray.
colors are a very light gray. We're also gonna be showing, the vinyl graphics that we've been working on, which are taking into account adding that pop of color to the walls.
Yeah, yeah,
So we'll look at that too.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the packet, the pop-up
Oh.
that's gonna be in that area. But it's suggested.
It's a rendering, yes, of what our design is. Is it in?
So, so that would be to your left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that change anybody's?
It's a wall color, essentially.
Um,
Other than that,
Yeah.
the graphic. It's that-
It's
that
a very
gray.
pale gray, it's
Yeah,
almost
everything
white
on
on
it.
the walls, and then a pop of graphics.
Does that change our perception of, that we like the gray?
I like the gray.
Like the gray?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I don't think we need to take a vote because we're just, we're staying with the contract. So I'll just record it, stay with the gray, stay with the contract.
Perfect.
Thanks for doing that. That was good. That brings us to fundraising bricks update.
Bill turned me on to, I know we had talked about this in our meeting a while ago, about bricks flanking the walkways. Joe dug up some, two good viable options, and one of them was was Bricks R Us, which we got sent a sample brick. It met the criteria through working with them, and this company will set everything up for us as far as the internet and brochures and stuff.
So are these bricks that the Civics Club will be selling?
Anyone can sell them, so we
Because
just have to kind of funnel them.
Because at the decommissioning, the Civics Club had talked about at their table selling the.
Yeah, and I think and I had talked to Mary about that. That was more for around the
Peaceful.
Yeah, so they
this
were
is
talking
a-
about that. And I did talk to Mary about that, and I'll talk to Mary as well as this. If they can sell them all, you know, if a club can sell these, by all means, you know, we'll give them to, you know, individual clubs to sell.
Well, the question is, how many bricks potentially could we
Okay,
sell?
so let's look at our two drawings that Chelsea, why don't you lead us through these two drawings? The first one is where those bands are.
Okay, so this is the main entrance of B where we were just talking about where the floor seal is, right here. So this is the main public entrance. We have in our landscaping, in between the concrete walkway, we have 19 bands of brick, which also go into seat walls. If you go to the next page, show this little detail here. So these are what the bands look like. And then attached to about half of the bands, there are also seat walls. And each brick is about 4 inches by 8 inches. So 19 bands at 128 bricks per band is 2,400 total bricks that we have in these bands, of which I think we were talking about maybe having about 400 or 200 bricks ordered from Bricks R Us.
So there's a couple of scenarios that we can play out. One is Mateo and Christian install what we already own and just, finish the job. They're all sand bed set, and so you just finish the job with the current bricks. The second, and then you guys then purchase bricks through the Bricks R Us company, sell them, and then, provide them either, if Consigli still on the job, once you have that process all done, they could install them, and there'd be a charge, or you can install them. So let's call that scenario one. That's probably on this end of the bookend. Scenario two is that you're able to sell a certain amount between now and next, maybe it's two increments. One is now to next fall, and then, or now to next spring. You're able to sell a certain amount. You would then hand those over to Consigli, and then they would install those. And depending on where those were, we do know that that front circle, Vince, if you just want to kind of just walk up there with your hand, just show where phase one ends, roughly. Phase two, the building where we're turning over in June. So.
Well, the whole building is going to be over.
Well, Mateo, you want to help them out? Show where phase.
You talking about
yeah,
the
site work.
So it's roughly, I think, right in somewhere in here.
So if you look at the sidewalk from to the right of where Vince's hand is, that's going to get finished for June 15th.
That's part, already done.
Right?
Right.
And then from there to the left would be finished for Mateo. This phase.
When is the next phase open?
Yeah, May of 18.
May
Right?
of 18, yes. Yep.
So you sort of conceptually think about that. So we're going to be installing bricks between now and June 15th in the area that's to the right. The area that's to the left, we'd be installing them in the spring of next year. So if you're the fundraising folks, you might be able to say, okay, we think comfortably that we can sell 200 bricks, 300 bricks, pick a number. Then, you would make that order and then start doing your process. We would then finish our phase two work, which is to the right. Phase three, you would give us whatever bricks you've sold next spring, and we would install those at the patterning that you guys want, and then maybe take out a couple that are in the phase two work that we've already turned over to you, because they're set in sand. You can pop them out and you can put the new ones in, just so that you have an even distribution of those. So then so conceptually, if you kind of think about it that way, you can say, all right, well, what does that mean dollars-wise? The Bricks R Us people, I think they quoted you $19 a brick. So anything above that that you sold, you would put for your scholarships or whatever the fundraising aspect that you're doing. So you'd have to sell them for more than $19. If you have Consigli, if you do it timely enough, you can have Consigli install them at no extra cost, because they won't install the ones they already are supposed to install. Depends on where you put them. That said, would you get any money back for the material only for the bricks that you would ask Consigli to, your bricks that you would install? You're going to get very little back. I think it's around $1 a brick or thereabouts that the credit will get back. Maybe it's $2, but we're not going to get a lot of money back on a brick. So I think we just have to accept that.
Yeah.
That this is not necessarily the value equation is capital cost, but your value equation is to be able to sell them for the good of the town for whatever fundraising purposes you would use that money for. So what do we need to know? We need to know if you want to do it. I mean, is this a commitment you want to take on? And then if you do that, you're going to need to know how much commitment you want to take on, because you're going to need to pay money to Bricks and Russ for a certain amount of brick. You're going to have to make that commitment. And then the last part of it is the timing. And so if we're going to install our our May 2018, the turnover, our bricks, when would we want to know to get those? It's probably sometime in early spring, so we can kind of plan it out, right? So that gives you your window of how much time you would have to do your deals for whatever you're doing. But the very first question is, we, meaning you, want to take this on and do it? That's the first question you have to ask.
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile.
Yeah, I definitely think we do, and I think there are a couple of groups that are interested in working on that.
Is there someone from our committee that wants to champion this?
Fred's already.
I know. Fred, you seem to know.
Fred's already knee-deep in the.
I'm already knee-deep in it.
All right.
Okay, concrete. Thank you, Fred.
Second that. Concrete, but.
You sell these with names on them?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, this company's very good as far as.
Do you have
what it
applications,
talks
commitments, because we have a few contractors.
Yeah,
in
what I'll
town.
do, I'll talk to him, I'll call up tomorrow, I'll get the nitty-gritty on all of the stuff and start. And that's all I needed was to say, okay, go,
Well,
start the brochure,
there's a procurement aspect too. So that would probably come through this committee.
Okay.
And so I have to figure out how to, the economics of your fundraising groups. But that needs to get worked out.
Fred, you started already. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, the good thing about these guys is you kind of just ship it to them. You just go to the internet, they'll set a website up that you can go to.
Oh, perfect.
And they'll do everything.
Just add your name.
And they'll give you the kind of the graphics, they'll show you the brick, how to lay it out, and, go down it. And I'll have all that, by tomorrow, I'll have pretty good fine tuning of all that.
Vince and Chelsea, can I ask you guys to take that drawing, and if we were to say we had 200 bricks to give to Christian and Mateo, what would your concept be to disperse them? What's that look? You can use your second drawing to kind of show, it's not every other one, obviously, because that would be, 11 or 1,200.
What if you could
So,
sell
but
24?
it's some kind of design so that there's some forethought when it gets to that. You guys can take that on?
Yes.
As far as designing, say, 200, 400, 200, 300, 400?
Yes.
Maybe just do it in increments of 200. Right?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We don't bite off, we're
Yeah.
not gonna do 600, we'll do 200 at a time, and as fundraising really goes gangbuster, then we'll know, and then at least schematically you can kind of, we can do it from our math.
Fred, if you have an application and they submit a check with the application, is that how you're gonna run it, or is it just?
No, you use the website.
All
Just the
online.
website do it for you.
Everything's online.
It would be online.
Type your name
And I'm
in
gonna
and
fine tune
give me
that
a credit
all
card.
I gotcha.
It's kind of, you drive it towards them and they'll do it, they'll have us set up as an account. You
Okay.
go to our account and boom, it'll go.
Gotcha.
It's even better.
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect. How much do we have to charge for the brick so we can pay for the change order next spring?
'Cause I know it's gonna be expensive. It's like the golden, spigot.
Okay, that was good. Good discussion. Moving forward, item 14, I know it's a long meeting, the tree fall zone. around the baseball and softball fields. So what we had been noticing at the site was where we cleared the woodland line at the outfields for the baseball field and the softball field, we've seen some trees fall down. Dan had asked if the Conservation Commission could walk that area, and if it's possible to, what would they recommend so that we'd have a safe zone, so that trees aren't falling onto the field, onto the fence, and potentially onto students, if we could cut back some trees. And so Dan and, I can't remember who the Conservation Commission walked?
Tim Stinson and Richard Coombs.
Tim and Richard Coombs.
We both walked it, the three of us, yeah.
Walked that area, and so there's a couple of scenarios that might come about. One is leaving it as it is, and if a tree falls, deal with it, repair the fence or whatever. Two is remove some amount of trees for some distance back, and just fell them and leave them in the woods as they are. A third scenario might be that you remove some of those trees for some certain distance back, but remove the trees, so they're not, lying there and creating, another unintended consequence. But we need to, as a committee, talk about, do we want to take this on, and what is the meaning of that?
Yeah, that's about all we talked about. Conservation, the three of us thought that, and they agreed too, we could cut back as far as 100 feet from the fence in the fields, whatever distance we chose. We looked at some of the trees, and a lot of them are on ledge out there, which means they're not deep rooted. And a lot of them are tall and skinny because the ones that were cut in front don't protect them anymore. So they would be more apt to fall in a big windstorm. God knows if we get a hurricane or a couple of northeasters. And one issue is if we cut them and leave them, then who knows, we might have the biggest bonfire you ever saw because they'll dry out. And they're all pine trees too. So it's just a question to protect the field, protect the kids, and fencing. Do we want to deal with it as it happens, or should we get some preventive maintenance in there?
How far back are we from the fences right now?
Not much, yeah.
That's the fence right there? Vince?
Some of them, yeah. Yeah, you
Like
can-
right with a,
Yeah, there's a picture right there.
any potential to do logging, which could net us a zero?
Well, yeah, well, this
cost?
is strictly just popped up this week and a half. So we haven't gone beyond what you heard from us. If you're logging, then you'd have to have some kind of a dirt logging road out there.
Right. But I'm just wondering if we could get them taken down and have no cost, was that?
Yeah, swap the
Straight through
wood.
the
Straight
field.
line there, yeah.
Swap the wood.
Some of them loggers, they want hundreds of trees. They just
Well, that's what I
don't
didn't
want
know how
50.
much we were talking about, if we're
Those
talking
guys
100
want-
feet.
Those guys want 600, 700 trees. They
Right.
don't want to come in for 40, 50 trees.
Right,
They don't
that's what
wanna do
I'm
it.
trying to figure out, is it 40 or 50, or is it 250?
It's gonna be a lot of trees.
I would guess it's gonna be in the hundreds, some of the trees. The best thing to do is if you get it, between now and the next meeting, if you get a chance to go and look. It's easy enough, you can see what it's all about.
I'm just saying, maybe we could get it so it wouldn't cost us anything if we could get a
Exactly.
lodge to do it.
Yeah.
Use the wood and we get a safe field.
Yeah,
The one along St. Joe's would be the hardest, because those trees are gonna buffer that, and they'll be,
well, we were thinking more to protect the fields.
yeah.
We're talking more on this side.
Where the kids are gonna be.
More here.
It's essential for a kid to be on a field and have a tree out back.
Well, if you're looking at this, look at this one, you're here.
I was more worried about the other side being noise. Because the generator's out
That's what shielding.
there.
And most of those trees didn't get, nothing was removed there, because
No,
that's where the
back areas
football
where a
field
lawn
was.
was cut.
Right,
This
right.
isn't
Yeah.
as much.
So we want, I guess there's a couple of things we can, ways to think about it, is we could ask considerably what does it cost to cut down the trees 75 feet back and leave them, cut down the trees 75 feet back and remove them. So then you have a benchmark to kind of compare against. You guys could then, if there's someone locally that does logging or whatever, you could reach out to them, and then you could have some kind of comparison. I don't think it's a critical timeframe element for us, but.
I'm sorry, excuse me, do you guys know any loggers? I mean, they probably don't even come to this part of the state, right?
They do.
They do?
Yeah. It's mostly where the fields and the fences are. That's what we want to.
Do you think that's a worthwhile avenue? I mean, is there any dollar value to, could we net out zero, I guess is what I'm saying? A logger gets the wood and we get a safer field.
My gut feeling is no.
No, okay.
I know the quality of the wood that's
You wanna
in
think about
that
that, Joel?
area is, a lot of them are already falling down, a lot of it's pine.
Do we want to put any pine
Not-
floors in the new school?
Yeah,
Pine side?
but you pursue it.
Insurance
but I
software
guess
work?
my
Yeah, I
gut feeling
think
is
We
no.
clear cut enough, we can go all the way to the Kennedy.
Well, that's what I was kind of.
Keep going. Bayesian Road. We lay enough of those down. Don't you ever try to go
That's where I
on.
was kind of headed. All right, well,
I watch fellow buttons.
Table it to next meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if everybody
Then we can
gets a
look at
look
it,
at
we
it,
can look at it,
then
too.
they can maybe get a better idea.
Okay. Since we're looking at before we go to construction updates, the graphics package, sorry Chelsea, I forgot to put it on our list. You want to walk us through the graphics package?
Actually, since we were already talking about that area and maybe we can start with the second one. It looks like this. So this is at the B main entry, the public area. Like we talked about, the floor is very neutral, the walls are very neutral, so we worked to design a very colorful pattern that would kind of energize the space. What we're doing is we're using patterns and shapes to create kind of a uniform design that goes through a color spectrum just to add a nice pop of color. And on the opposite wall of this, there's TVs for media for this space. This is right near the robotics lab, so this is a good collaborative space for students and public, and it's right as you walk in. So that is.
This is vinyl?
Yep, they are vinyl graphics.
Pasted on the wall or like as a tile that would be inserted into the wall?
Nope, they're applied to the top, yep.
This is similar to the patterning that's in the elementary cafeteria that you've done with the acoustical panels?
Yep, so we
That's what you're
we
making
had done somewhat of a similar patterning with that we have metal reveals, those are those lines that you're reading across. And instead of using, in the pre-K cafeteria, we were able to use acoustic wall panels that are kind of inset, and these lines actually bump in and out. Here it's flat with just the reveals, and we have the surface applied graphics.
Is there a life expectancy on the panel, on that graphic?
On the
Near
graphics?
the window, as far as sunshine and,
No,
Will they
it should,
fade? Is that what-
yeah.
Fading, yeah.
Fading, peeling.
we haven't had any problems with that in the past. We've done vinyl graphics on many jobs, so. Yay. Thank you. The next area that we can talk about is the pre-K through 5 media center.
So cool.
Good, yeah. When we reviewed this with the owner, and what we wanted to do is, this is an interior space, but we did want to make it feel very lively. We wanted to reference back to the town. We have these skylights that are a highlight, and they bring in a lot of natural light, but we also wanted to, with this graphic, kind of create a storybook theme of the town of Holbrook, to kind of memorialize the project and the town that we're in. So that is that. It's kind of on a higher wall. You'll see it right as you walk into the media center. It'll be very prominent and. Okay. And then the last graphic that we have to present, this is a vinyl graphic applied to glass. So this is at the fitness center glass. There are two glass walls that kind of come to a pinch point at the fitness center. The other side of this wall is kind of a translucent glass. It lets through light but doesn't allow you to see. These 6 panels of glass, there would be a little bit for you to be able to see into the fitness center, but it would still allow for privacy. It would match the translucent glass that we have below, and it would kind of seem like it's fading up to clear. The very top panel is clear. And it uses a subtle pattern that is relating back to that first pattern we saw in B building. It uses the same shapes, just a simpler version, to allow for a little bit of privacy, but yet a little bit of filtering.
Will you be able to see the activity that's happening in there?
Yes, there are little bits that are clear.
Where you can see the color through?
Where you can see the color through,
That
yeah.
color is the paint in the back wall.
Yeah.
Give some privacy that allows
Yeah.
for a nice design.
They all look great.
Yeah, real good, yeah. Okay, sounds good. Okay, construction update.
So as part of the package, we're going to turn to the overall view. So first off, we're on schedule and everything's progressing pretty well. Site-wide, we've started placing sidewalks again. In addition, we've begun spreading loom and planting for like the overall landscape right outside of the sports fields. The exterior facade has been completed, so ACM and copper and front, that's all done. Moving into the building, so the HVAC system, we're continuing on with commissioning and balancing as well. Punch list, obviously that's something that goes on throughout the job, but we're getting a little more formal with it. We've punched out A2 and C2 and presented that to Flansburgh. We've also completed A1 and C1 in regards to most of the classrooms. There's still a little bit of work going on there, so we haven't presented that yet to the architect. In the A building, first floor, we're starting to clean. Stair treads are going in. A2, the radius is along the corridor, the SVT along that's being installed. C2 is largely finished until we start to install that corridor SVT. But in C1, we have begun our final clean and finishing up on some MEP finishes and fixtures. In C, the gymnasium floor has been complete, largely complete with the line painting as well. I think by next week we'll have that sealed up and done. Admin carpets being installed. A lot of the finishes are going up in that B1 cafeteria. The stair treads along that main stair number 4 have been installed. Looks pretty good. And the porcelain, we're going to start installing that in that main B lobby tomorrow. And that's about it. Yeah, with the logo. Yeah.
Any questions?
So within construction update, we have the traffic plan update. Those are the two graphics one is similar. We'll just do that after. So, yeah, those two, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, I'll talk about it. So the first,
Well, let's frame it.
Okay,
So,
sure.
at our last meeting, we had a diagram that was similar to that diagram, but our public entry and our public exit were very, very close. And the concern was that we would get traffic conflicts with morning pickup, or morning drop-off and afternoon pickup, and just a convergence of all the traffic on South Franklin anyway. So we actually went back to what we had in the base contract, which is the white and blue drawing that Vince has up there now, which that's what we have right now in the contract. It's separated, but the downside of that was that as we're looking at the very, very small arrows that are on the blue roadways, the arrow that is going in is towards the bottom of the sheet, and the arrow that's for the public that is going out is towards the top of the sheet. And that is actually the opposite of the final design. And so we wanted to bring to the committee a variation of this with the separated public entry and exit, but with the traffic circulation so that the ingress or in off of South Franklin is towards the top of the sheet, and the exit or egress is towards the bottom of the sheet. And that's where the colored axonometric is. So that's sort of why we're still talking about this, because we had a little bit of homework to do to separate the public transportation. And then once we looked at that from what we actually owned, we realized that we're going to have two public training sessions. One, if we had the blue and white drawing, because it would be training the parents to do something in September and then retraining them in December, which that had its own set of complications. So you want to walk us through maybe the colored one?
Sure.
What we think is the improvements on that circulation?
well, let's look at the big one here, it's easy to see, but mainly the, as Joel said, we separated that entrance so that the front entry drive is this way. The exit drive is going to be coming around and further separated and then sharing similar spaces to the entrance where the construction entrance is, and where this will become the permanent entrance, the permanent exit in the final version. We did look at a couple of things. I did meet with the fire and the police chief to get their opinions on this plan as well. Their opinion is that they don't really like this crosswalk here at all. This is what's being used now, but in the future they would like to see that crosswalk go away, and they may black it out in the future. This would be the main crosswalk at the entrance. They're going to be building this sidewalk as part of this phase now, so there'll be a permanent sidewalk that's installed. This is going to represent the final version of the sidewalk. So anybody that's walking, students or biking, would come here and cross and access the site this way. One of the other things that they wanted us, the fire and police wanted us to do, is to add some signage at this exit, because they don't want students to be walking in that way. So they want us to just put a sign out there, there's no pedestrian access for that walkway.
And that's what you've shown on the drawing. This represents their comments?
This doesn't quite represent their
Does not?
comments,
Okay.
no, this is after, those comments were after that. But there would be a sign that we would add for that purpose. But as you come in, all of the traffic would be coming in this road. And as you get to this turn right here, you would split. Buses would take the green arrows, and cars and drop-off would take the blue arrow on this side. Any queuing would happen down here. Again, the fire department just wants to make sure that any queuing stays to the right and allows the left side of that roadway to be accessed for cars turning into the parking lot or emergency vehicles getting access to the school. In the early phase that we're talking about, this first year, we're talking about having separate entrance, separate drop-offs. One for cars would use this area here to drop off, but the buses would go around the back and then drop off and use the entrance at the cafeteria on the back north side of the building. And that would hope to separate, the two drop-offs. In the future, the buses would then drop off in this loop over here, but until it's constructed, it's not available. And then when it goes around the rest of the building, the buses come back around, and then the high school drop-off, that drop-off will be constructed, and then the cars will drop off at the front entrance here. So as you come back around, we're using as much of the, future road as possible, but at certain points here, it starts to become a temporary road. And all of this paving that's gonna be done here is all gonna just have binder course on it. It's not gonna be the final paving at this point. So you come back around, again, the fire department asked us to make this a little bit more gentle of a curve for their trucks. So this will get modified to be a little bit more of a curve. They'll come back around here, and then, again, the width of this road will be approximately the same as the entrance drive, about 24 feet, in order to allow 2 lanes of traffic, not just a single lane, because the fire department doesn't also want to get trapped on the school if there's backup. So then come back around and then exiting at the front of the school again. So that's basically the traffic pattern as it would be existing in the beginning of the school year.
So there is an amount of work difference to shift the ingress and egress to its final state from what's currently in the contract. And that is constructing a bit of roadway from where Vince is showing, right? Not even, but it's just the white part, right? It's
Yeah,
the
pretty
white
much
from
this
there
part
to
here,
there.
and then some of this is.
That's already the parking lot we made last
Right.
summer. So we would have to add a little bit of roadway in order to make this happen. But it seems to be a better concept, because we're only training the public once in September. And we had a rough number for that added?
Yeah, so
roadway?
$25,000. 25.
It's about $25,000 to add that extra bit of roadway. It probably that incorporates a couple of signs at the fire.
Yeah, I'm sure there are a couple of signs.
Somewhere around there, okay.
Yep. And in addition to, mimicking the final circulation, this plan also reduces the number of interactions at which traffic needs to cross, right? So at the currently owned spot, you'll have traffic once it's exiting, if you can go through that new.
Right the other way, yeah.
But yeah, so a primary concern would be, where it first enters back into exit. So, you would probably have a significant queue there where traffic needs to turn left against traffic that's coming in, and then
Two-way traffic there is gonna be.
two-way traffic needs to be shared there.
Yeah.
And there would also be crossing, entering and exiting that parking lot.
Not wide enough there to put some Jersey barriers just in that.
Probably not Jersey barriers. It's 24 feet wide, and we would utilize cones. We're going to utilize cones kind of regardless.
Yeah.
But you still would need to cross traffic left, turn left, as opposed to the other one allows for kind of each lane to have the individual.
The two major themes of this option 3 as is listed is safer, and it also gets everyone used to that, which is gonna be a sharp change to everybody, in, out, in.
And then to not
And
have
not
to change
shifting
it.
that halfway through the school year. I mean, as far as logistics, it would be quite difficult to get people trained over Christmas vacation. So, and the non-crossover and the different paths where we can keep the buses away from the parents, and it's a really nice plan.
Option 3 is a really good way to go.
Option 3 is
Yep.
probably like the 10th pass we had.
Yeah.
But
We've
it's
been working out
it's
there,
really the
guy.
best one. It was a lot of work, so.
Just a quick question related, are there bike lanes incorporated in this?
Yeah, the way that the bikes work right now is they use the sidewalks, and so once you get to a certain point in there, they'll be walking the bikes anyway. So in the future, there's signage, but the intent would be that the bikes would be walking onto the site, similar to a pedestrian. So you're not really driving on it, but in the future, they would be similarly the same way. I think they would only be able to come in a partial way and then have to walk from certain distance, but there would be a bike lane in the future. but not right now,
There will be a bike lane.
But the bike, again, it's only,
It's gonna be on the sidewalk.
but
Discard.
the bike lane basically takes you into here about, and then from there, you're gonna walk, you're supposed to dismount and walk
Yeah.
the bike from there, but it's a short distance anyway, but there will be some provisions for bikes in the future, yes.
And on the exit road, will it be two lanes, a left turn lane and a right turn lane?
You mean in option three?
It depends on
Yeah.
how, it depends on who you wanna listen to. The police and fire had some, preferences, but recognizing that it's probably going left and right, yes. They're just concerned that, to improve the traffic, they would feel that everything turned right. It would be an improvement to the traffic if everything turned right. That's the thing. So, I mean, they recognize that, but that's what their preference would be.
But our lane width
It's
is wide enough
24
for
feet,
a lane.
it's 2 lanes,
Yes.
correct,
Yes.
yes.
Okay, so, can we say that we like, option 3, go with option 3, finalize what the cost, figures are. Would you need direction before our May 19th meeting to implement? Because that's a summertime implementation, right? Okay, so we can wait for the May 19th, so it'll give you the chance to finalize your numbers, you'll bring it back to us for the final number for that. We do,
Sorry, just a related question. On that street, will we have the, like, yellow lights on the main street on 37?
Oh, school flashing?
Yeah. We don't have them now. I don't know what the threshold is for requiring those.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna want to do them, that would be like
Crossing, school crossing or something like that have the flashing lights. I don't think we have that on the plans right now. Yeah, they're saying that section of the road is not a state road. That's town-owned.
Not right
That
there.
is not.
Right, right. Fire and police, yeah.
I remember that there was something written in your traffic report back at schematic design. Could you hold
Yeah.
that up? I think it's a good question, so
Yeah.
let's answer the question.
Right.
But I think your traffic consultant had some commentary on that.
That's what was my recollection when I asked the fire and the police chief this week. They said, no, that's not. So unless they're wrong, we can go back and check, yeah.
The niche your traffic
Sure,
consultant said
yeah.
to do it or not to do it, or had to do it.
Oh,
didn't have
with
to do
the-
it.
with the
There was
crossing?
some commentary within their
The crossing.
schematic design report.
The
So
crossing.
let's hold that up, and we'll send that to everybody to answer the question.
Sure, okay.
Joel, I think, I remember asking that question a while ago, and was told it's not in the original, and so it's not in the new. That was,
I don't.
but that was a while, that was
Well,
a long time ago.
because I'm sure it's written, whatever the disposition is. And, you guys need to dig that up. Good question.
And then just one other follow-up. Would it be possible if the crosswalk, could the crosswalk be blue, the school colors? I don't know if that's allowed, but it'd be kind of cool. I think I've seen that in other towns where the crosswalk matched the school color.
Sure.
And then could we put, whatever the bulldog ends up being, could we have the bulldog in the crosswalk? So, something for a future meeting, I just want to get it out there and.
Is that the finish line?
And hanging there, traffic lines are red, white, and blue.
That's right, you're Braintree too.
Oh, yeah.
You're gonna take that on?
I've seen it.
Figure out what our cans and can'ts.
Yeah.
do. Okay, perfect. All right, getting towards the end, we do have two changes. There's the two documents with the consigli logo, can't pick it up yet, Mike, with the consigli logo on, almost there. That we have two changes that we wanted to bring to your attention, that we were trying to get incorporated into tonight's change order. We just couldn't come to terms with the pricing. There was a lot of back and forth. The first one is top right-hand corner. It says CR 219-P4. that is for the theatrical lighting in the amount of $40,716. That's to add a theatrical type lighting for the cafetorium stage in the elementary school cafeteria where there's some performances. The theatrical lights weren't shown in the drawings. And so Flansburgh and Consigli have been working with the subcontractors to get an appropriately designed layout for these fixtures. The commentary from the engineers is that the 40,000 is too high. The commentary back from the subcontractors is that that's an appropriate price for the design. So we're going back and forth, but it is ultimately turning into a time-sensitive issue for our opening on June 15th. So if we could ask the committee to allow the architect and the contractor to get to a fair price over the next few days or so. This is one of those items that is above the 25,000 that we've said the construction working group can sign up to. It's probably going to be more than 25,000. So if we could say from the committee's perspective that authorize Flansburgh and Consigli to install a theatrical lighting system not to exceed $40,716, but to get to the most fairest price, and then we'll work it out at the Thursday morning's construction meetings with Fred and Jim or Scott when they come to the meeting. I just don't want us to wait till the next month's meeting because I think we're gonna run out of time on this one.
So moved. Matteo, do we think there's gonna be a movement on this?
I think so, yeah, I mean, it seemed like the comments from GGD were pretty reasonable. But yeah, like, there's an 8-week lead time. And so,
This is Broadway?
I'm sorry?
Is this for Broadway or?
Putting up some.
So we can have Broadway in the cafeteria?
For the little kids that have Broadway.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so the next one, I'm sorry, so I'm just gonna move forward.
Yes.
The next one is CR, top right-hand page, CR 199-P4. This is a similar type of story, wherein we have, in that drawing right there, the upper grades playground area towards, Vince, could you show that? Right there, has got a concrete berm surround to it, a low berm surround to it, that the surfacing material finishes up to. And that concrete surround wasn't purchased the way the design is showing because of the phasing that we have. And so we have been going back and forth for a little while now. We have a price of $43,000 for the concrete curbing, but Flansburgh is working with their landscape architect to reduce the quantity and the layout of it, which should lower the price. But again, it was one of those items that we just could not get closure on prior to, as really late this afternoon. And so I'd like to be able to say, since this is another June 15th turnover item, can we give Flansburgh and Consigli authorization to get to the right design and negotiate the right price? And then it's probably going to be more than $25,000 to have the construction working group sign off on that at a Thursday morning meeting.
Second. Okay, everybody okay with that? So we had the two motions on this.
Okay.
We'll vote on the two
so-
motions. All in favor?
Aye.
Change orders.
Great, thank you. That gives us some flexibility to keep the job moving
Right.
forward. And we haven't really had to do that very often, and so I think that's been good. Next agenda item, I'm going to go really quick, is move-in update, and we can just look at our schedule that's in our standard agenda package, like so. It's been going well. We've delivered two increments of boxes so far?
Just one.
Just one?
Yep.
To the
Another one
teachers?
coming shortly.
Okay, and they've been packing, so the mover's on board, the boxes are here, they're getting packed. We did coordinate with the town departments. The last day of school is June 16th. And on June 17th, I think the police department is the only one so far that has identified furnishings that they would like to obtain from the former high school. And so we've asked them to do that. They're picking up and removal of those items on June 17th. And then we've checked with Jim Crowley, town's insurance carrier, to verify if residents, if it's within your insurance coverage, to have your residents come in and identify if they want to have any of the surplus furniture on that same Saturday, and that's okay with Jim. So we'll figure out what's the notification process. I'll work with you, Tim, as far as the Abington newspaper and stuff like that. But we'll probably want to say something like between 9 and 2 o'clock, you can come to the school and remove the surplus furniture that the school committee has surplus. But you'll have to remove it yourself within this period of time. And then on June 19th, that Monday, the movers then start to move all of the boxes and start to dispose of all of the surplus furniture. So it looks like it's coming together. I'll work with you, Tim, on the language of that, the notification to the residences. And then if there's any other town departments that want anything, I think the police have already tagged theirs, right?
They pretty much took it off.
They took all the good stuff.
Yeah, but the other town departments will need to tag theirs, because what will happen is, anything that's not tagged will be, possibly mistakenly, removed. So, and then big picture, our furnishings, our new furnishings that we voted earlier will start to arrive for all of the central administration and the two, the elementary administration and the middle school, high school administration, June 1st. And so we'll set those up by June 15th. That'll allow the central administration and the high school administration to move out of the current school into the new building. And then the rest of the furniture will start to arrive July 10th and be installed by July 26th. And then the technology that we voted on earlier will also arrive July 10th and be completed by the end of July. So everything's getting lined up schedule-wise, and that's the update for the move. Next agenda item was transition planning. Beth, anything to report on transition planning?
I know the principals are working on room assignments now. I don't know if there's anything.
There's really nothing else that's, because most of it is this moving and all of that. That's the transition to.
So as soon as we have the room assignments, can you issue that to us? And then we'll need to get it to, you'll need to get it to the teachers so they can write it on the boxes.
They have to put it in the boxes, right.
And then,
it probably won't be for a little bit now because they still have to assign people to classes and check schedules.
I'm holding on to labels until we have that.
Oh, okay.
So they're just packing boxes.
Okay.
We're gonna label once we know, because I don't wanna distribute them and have something change. So we're gonna pack now, label later.
perfect, perfect. All right, that's good, that's
Nothing's
good.
getting moved
Yep.
out anyways, room until.
Yep. What's the copies?
No place to hold it, so we can't move it.
No,
No
that's good.
place, yeah.
That's perfect. Committee questions? Public comments? Next meeting is May 17th.
Yeah, we're gonna have it at 6.
The walkthrough at 6? Yep.
Walkthrough 6 on the next meeting.
Yes.
17, yeah.
I have a comment, though, if I may. Could I make a comment? We are very fortunate, I hope you don't mind my announcing it here, but that Consigli has again donated the trolleys for the kids for the prom. And we're so grateful, and you're keeping it very low-key and quiet, but I just heard it and I
More.
thought, I know, I had to, but we're very grateful and the kids really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. Now I see why the Lansing Crossing was funny. And I thought it was a government thing.
Are we supposed to feel bad now?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I'm gonna take it from the promenade.